the wind's blowing towards my face as I'm walking down this little hill to this finger, and I see about 130-inch eight bound off. And I'm like, nice. So lesson learned, sit where you think you're going to see deer and quit walking around when it's 90 degrees.
Or don't get to the stand an hour before dark. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today I'm joined by my co-host Jake Gaylord. What's going on?
Right now, I just finished some pumpkin bread that my wife Abby made, and I could probably eat about 5 pounds of that. It's that time of the season. It's officially...
You can or you already have? You can or you already have?
Yes.
It's that time of the season where you leave with a deal of Tupperware, full of something, and by the time you get to camp, you're like, I had something in this previously, and now it's just Tupperware.
Yeah, which, I don't know. There's enough food for camp. I know that. I got my own little separate stash for myself, so there's always... Everybody does it. It ain't just me.
Yeah. You just disguise the stuff that you put your hunting clothes in and put food in one of them, so it's like it's like a 1 in 4 odds that somebody finds your stash.
You keep all your trail mix in there. It's like, hey, let me borrow some socks. It's like, I'll grab them for you, don't worry.
I'll get it. No. Yeah, well, you've been doing a little bit of hunting, so in today's episode, we're going to do a hunt talk episode. We have a few different formats of the show, but we're going to do a hunt talk today, and Jake's been doing a lot of hunting. I haven't been doing very much, so before we get into that, we want to do our verse of the day.
Verse of the day? Yeah.
Put it in a headline.
Today's verse of the day would be Colossians 3:2. Set your mind on things above, not earthly things. With that, and just in the feel of October, hunting season and all that stuff, we've said it before, if you're a longtime listener, you watch some of our YouTube videos, and kind of going along the same lines with this verse, you know, right now we're all focusing on chasing these big giant bucks, right? And we're trying to get in that record book, whether that be Boone and Crockett, Pope and Young, but we can't really forget about the good book and always keep God first. And yeah, so that's my sermon for the day. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But what's your thoughts on Colossians 3:2, Christy?
I think the short verses are sometimes the ones that are the most profound. And this one's extremely simple, which I think wisdom kind of is simple in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's like, don't do this. You're like, is that simple? Yes, it is. Set your mind on things above, not earthly things. I think this is very hard to do and easy to think about doing, very hard to do. And I think in the spirit of hunting season, we just released a video, or I did on the channel. I don't even know if you've seen it yet, but I talk about in that video on like, it is so easy to make things here first, make things here and idle. Yeah. And especially during hunting season, it's so easy to set your things on things that don't matter, you know, like chasing a big buck, like those sort of things. And it's just a good reminder to continually set your eyes on the Lord. You know, the things that you put first are the things that you value the most. And I'm trying to keep that in mind, especially with that good mid-October cold front coming. It's hard to think about anything else. So
it is.
I can tell you that.
You see, I like those shorter verses because I can actually somewhat comprehend it. If it's like 15 words or less, I'm good. Like yours last week, it was a good little message, but let me tell you, it took me about 15 minutes to actually read through it and comprehend it. So
if it has 2 periods, you're out. That's more than one sentence.
Yeah. Either that or more than like 50 syllables. So
there we go.
Choose them wisely.
Yeah, well, I mean, we want to start. I know we just started doing this last episode, but this is what we want to do going forward, especially on our long-form episodes, just putting the Lord first, and everything good comes from Him. So we want to start with that, and that offends you, I'm sorry. Just kidding. I'm not sorry. Go read the book. But with that being said, that's the verse of the day this week, and I'm excited about this one. I'm excited to get into a hunt talk, even though I haven't been doing much hunting myself, but in the spirit of hunting mid and early October, you've been doing a little bit of hunting. What have you been getting into the last week?
So last Thursday, me, Justin, Jordan, and
Big Tuna.
Yeah, old Big Tuna went down to our public spot where we like to be, where the pines and the acorns are, or acorns, however y'all say it. But yeah, it was hot. It was like probably high
90s
60s
in the day.
Yeah, high 60s in the mornings, and then like towards the evenings, it was creeping up to like 89, 91, something like that. and we were still seeing good movement. Like what I like to do in October, and I think what you also do is jump around, especially on these public pieces, to go jump around and either try to find that like fresh sign, or maybe try to find some like other doe groups, or just check out like basically just do in-season scouting, right? And that's what I did. And I set 3 different spots and 3 sits, and I seen deer at every single one of them. Granted, it was just either does or like a little spike or a forkhorn, but it was still deer. And especially down there, like you don't see that. Like it was 90 degrees during the evening sits, and we were seeing better movement than we did during the first week of November down there last year, which is pretty dang cool. So, and with this week getting into a cold front, it's like I feel like something's going to die. So I'm excited.
So you were down there, I think you got down there on the 10th and started hunting. What was your, like, you know, you're still early October, it's in the 90s. What were you looking for when you were walking around scout hunting, let's call it?
I mean, basically just fresh sign, whether that be scrapes, rubs, or anything. But what I was doing is I was just, you know, picking an area and trying to find like, or walk a drainage is what I did the first day. It's just walk the drainage until I found sign, and I did, and I found a scrape that was wide open, like hoof prints. But again, that was the only thing around. I mean, there was like a little small rub on like this little bitty twig tree that was, I don't know, 70 yards away from the scrape. And so it was getting late in the evening by the time I found that scrape. So I just shimmied up a tree, and about 45 minutes till dark, I see like a deer. I don't know if it's a doe or a buck, but it was by itself. So it makes me think that it could have been a buck, but it was through all the trees, and that's the only thing I seen. And then I was like, well, this is a cool spot to kind of remember, because it was kind of like a little sliver of trees, or I guess it's like a little finger of trees that kind of was transitioning into some like more immature trees, but it was between 2 overgrown clear cuts. And so it was like pretty good amount of diversity right there, but it's a pretty good walk. And so I was like, you know what, if I'm going to walk this far, I might save it for either a cold front or during the rut, because like it's a pretty good spot. But I also wanted to go check out other spots, and also, you know, check out like, is our historical spots that we set in the previous years any good? And that's what I did, and turned out to be fruitful too, because I seen deer, and I jumped a pretty good buck on the last day we were there, but I'll get into that. So was the scrape, like, was it worked pretty good fresh, like community scrape, or like looked like just a single buck making it wasn't a car hood scrape or anything, was it? No, it wasn't that big, but it was probably like a 1.5 foot by 1.5 foot, and you could see like the imprints of the tip of the hooves digging in and stuff like that. So it was pretty well worked. I mean, I felt on it and see if it was wet somehow, some way, but it wasn't until after I peed in it. But yeah, that kind of wrapped up the first evening there.
Did you set up a trail camera on that scrape?
I didn't. I even walked back there with the trail camera, but I was like, you know what, this can wait, because I thought I was going to find. I had like 6 cameras with me.
Our trail camera fleet is hurting.
It is. I had like 6 trail cameras with me, but only like 3 SD cards that I brought, and I was like, does this need to have a trail camera? Because I wanted to set some at our historical spots, and so I was just kind of being greedy, and I should have set one out because I came home with one, so it didn't really work out to my advantage there.
That could have been the one.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen people, and I've found cameras on in the mountains, like on mock scrapes, like people putting up mock scrapes with tinks, and that are really, really worked. And there's a camera, and you're like, you know, that thing's got some liquid goodness in that SD card. So having an actual scrape there, that probably would have been a pretty good spot for a cam.
Yeah, and I don't know, I might go check it out again. I mean, I say it was a long hike. It was a half mile, but again, when it's 90 degrees, half mile seems like forever.
When the weather's nice outside, 2 miles is like, I'm having fun. This is great.
Yeah,
you know, that's a lot of the reason I haven't been hunting here is, I kid you not, last Saturday it was 100.
Yeah, I believe it. It was. Isn't that crazy? What is it right now? Because we hit a pretty good cold front coming through.
It's still it was 97 today.
97?
Yeah, still really hot.
Damn.
Here. Yeah, we're getting the same one, but it always is just less down here.
Old Texas heat. Yeah, I understand it. No, but I wasn't the only one seeing deer. Like Justin was kind of jumping around, and I think Jordan was seeing stuff, but I think he was trying to hunt with his kids more than anything and trying to put them on deer. So I don't really know how well he went the whole weekend, but Justin actually seen some pretty good movement. Like he was checking cameras and stuff, and at night he would come back and like show me all the ones, and he had some tanks on there. So that was a pretty good little feeling there.
So they were moving quite a bit. Makes you, if you're seeing deer at that time of the year, you're obviously doing something right because the deer density is not super high. So that was your first evening. I think you got it down there, early enough to hunt the evening. And then what happened on day 2?
Yeah, so Friday I hunted just a spot where I killed my buck last year. And again, I didn't know really how well this spot would work because it ain't too terribly far off the road. And also the only time I hunted this last year and like basically found this spot was during the RUT. And so I didn't know if that's more like just a RUT spot or could it be an early season spot. And so that's kind of why I said it. And the very first morning I seen a group of 4 doe. And I was going to try to shoot one, which is kind of upsetting because they came out at 8:40, 8:45 in the morning, something like that. And they're like 62 yards. I range them, it says 62. Then they kind of walk and like my wind's perfect. The whole morning it was hitting me from like left to right. So it's hitting me on my left cheek and they're directly probably like 11 o'clock in front of me. And I'm like, okay, cool. As soon as they get into like within the 40s, like 45 yards, I was going to shoot because we've talked about this off podcast and maybe on the podcast a little bit. It seems like every year we go down there, like if you put in the time, you will get a shot opportunity at a giant.
Just on averages.
Yeah. And so with that being said, like in what happened last year, what I'm trying to do is just kind of build my confidence going into it and not taking shots when I shouldn't really be taking them. Like, sending a Hail Mary at 55 on a doe. And if I miss, that's probably not the best confidence booster in my opinion, at least for myself.
Yeah.
So I was kind of waiting on them to get into, within the 40s and they're 62, 55. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I'm sitting there ranging it. And all of a sudden one just like shoots her head up and is like kind of like looking around and like almost she's on alert. And I'm like, what the heck? Okay, maybe there's a buck coming in for some reason. Like, okay, this is cool. And about that time, she blows and like prances off like 15 yards and then like looks back. And I'm like, what the heck's happening here? And all of a sudden I felt that gust of wind hit the back of my head. And I'm like, oh no, of course. Like, of course, that's just how the mountains work, right? Like it'll be blowing perfectly all morning. And then as soon as the deer steps out, it's like, let's give them a little whiff of you real quick. And me, I didn't wash my butt that night. So it's like, they're definitely going to smell me.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things where I was just like, well, that sucks. Long story short, they went to prance off. And after that morning, I kind of gave that spot a little break for a couple days.
So night 1, I think you went up before Justin and Jordan did. So the camper wasn't at your disposal. So did you sleep in the back seat of your truck?
I did. Yeah, I did a little truck camping that night, which I don't know. I don't really like doing that, especially when there's a lot of other people down there kind of hunting because I don't know, it just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. But nah, it was fine. I threw all my crap in the bed of my truck and made a little nooket in the back seat, and it was actually pretty comfy. Like, I don't really get why people are too good for that because I just threw my sleeping bag down, which is pretty cushiony, and then you kind of lay out right. You can almost sprawl out all the way. Like, I'm like 6'1",
almost,
and it isn't too bad. Like, I think I only woke up like once with where my right shoulder felt like it was completely gone, but other than that, it was fine.
Do you try to fill up that little gap in between your center console and the back seat? Because there's like a foot or a foot and a half where your legs usually sit if you're sitting straight up. Do you fill that up with stuff?
So
some people put their ice chest and stuff.
Not really. No, I don't do that. Like I had like my camera gear, the stuff that I didn't want to just leave out in my bed, shoved down in there. But for the most part, I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I'll sleep on my side and it'll be just fine.
Well, our buddy Zach Gajowski, he was like, do you have one of those
I've seen that. Yeah.
Do you have one of those air up? Because there's those little air up mattresses that'll kind of fill up that space.
That would be nice. Yeah. If you guys are anything like us, you love being in the deer woods and chasing big bucks. But there's another part of you that has that itch to chase other big game species.
If you've ever dreamed of chasing black bear, mule deer, or moose, Alberta, Canada is the land of opportunity for these adventure-style hunts.
Each year, hundreds of first-time visiting hunters from around the world come to Alberta for the options, quality, and accessibility that the land offers.
With over 1,800 Boone and Crockett entries and endless possibilities of taking multiple species on a single trip, Alberta is truly a paradise for a big game hunter. This is why we partnered up with the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society. To check it out, go to apos.ab.ca and click Find an Outfitter. From there, you can browse all the different big game species and hunting styles that fit with what you want out of the hunt.
Or you can send a free hunt inquiry through the Follow the Lead tool, and the outfitters who have what you are looking for will reach out to you directly.
So make sure to check out apos.ab.ca to learn all about hunting in Alberta and get connected to the right outfitter for you.
And I know he was asking you that question, but I responded. I said, I'll never use an air up mattress. And he's like, it's better than laying like sideways or something. And I was like, I disagree. I hate air mattresses with a passion.
The thing about air mattresses is, and maybe this wouldn't do it because it's like a smaller size, but when it gets really cold, they tend to deflate, and it's like
I do 100% of the time.
They do probably 100% of the time. That reminds me of that story with Justin, like
in Nebraska,
basically. No, like feet up in the air.
Yeah, it was Nebraska.
Yeah, that was Nebraska. That's kind of funny, but no, like it then it gets like too soft, and it's like a weird too soft because then like part of the air mattresses is like almost suffocating your face, and I don't like that. I'd rather just sleep on. I mean, seats are plenty of cushion.
They're not bad. There's just not a lot of surface area. That's
right. Yeah. Which, I don't know. Don't be a big old boy, I guess.
Yeah, be smaller. I can tell you it's better than the front seat. So day 2, you saw 4 does, and you scout a little bit during the midday because we talked about that a little bit. We've talked about it on the phone this last week. Is like that's a great time to scout is October, and run some cams midday.
Yeah, which it sucks because like in years past, what we would do is we'd hunt, and then midday we'd go check the cameras we set out during the summer. But the last 2 years we haven't did that because we had other priorities. Like in September, granted, we talked about it the other day, or I think just today. We're like, we need to really start setting them out again because even if that means setting them out in June or July or something like that, or January, I don't care.
Just leaving them
just to be able to have cameras out, and when you get busy during the summer or whatever, like they're out there working. Like some of them might be dead, but it's better than not being out there. But we didn't have cameras out, so I actually did go look for some of the cameras that we thought we left out there or possibly didn't get grabbed last year when we were there during the vacation, and I found a total of 0. So there's a lot of camera pins that we had marked, and I'm pretty sure they got yoinked, but then again, they could be in Carol's bag or a tote somewhere. I don't know. I mean, I know we're probably about 13 cameras shy at this point.
Yep, our stashes are dwindling. I bought 4 new cheap ones this summer, and they came with $40 for a camera, and it comes with an SD and 8 batteries. And I was like,
"Oh, that ain't bad.
That's a pretty good deal."
Yeah, no, that ain't bad at all.
So I've got 4 of those, and I'm going to try to run. But so you went around looking for our depleting fleet of cameras, and did you find any good spots in midday?
I mean, not really. The historical spots, I mean, they're going to be good, I think, but we'll still be good. But as for checking out the new spots and potentially hanging a camera, I don't know. It's hard to tell because down there's really not that much sign anyways. And then especially now, like I'd seen hardly any buck sign. And I think I seen like maybe 2 or 3 rubs, and then just that one scrape I seen on the very first evening. Then that was it. Other than that, it was just poop and, there's a good trail right here. But other than that, no, that's about all it was. So the activity and sign wise, it was pretty sparse.
Makes it tough not to go back to historical spots because the only difference between a historical spot and a new spot is you've hunted one and there's deer in there. Whereas you go to a new spot and you're like, it looks good, but I'm not seeing any sign. I'm not, what makes it's not proven. You just got to hunt it.
Yeah.
Right? It makes it tough.
Well, tell me your thoughts on this too, but kind of what I learned over this last weekend, because I checked out like each day, kind of before the evening hunt, I would go, and whether that was just looking around for an hour or or whatever it was, I would jump around and try to find spots. But the thing was, is I already had spots that I was seeing deer at, and especially early season when there's not that much sign, there ain't that much movement and stuff like that. It's like, why go jump around and find those spots? Granted, it's good for backup, but if you already have 3 spots that you've seen deer at, why not just hunt those spots? And then, if you get bumped out of one from pressure, you go to the next. And if you have 1 or 2 backups, I think that's good enough. And hopefully that'll hold you over until the rut, because we have good rut spots if we want to get away from human pressure. We already know where to go for that somewhat. And then even if, let's say, that fails, at that point in time during the season, the sign will be hopefully great. And granted, you probably won't want to hunt over scrapes at that point, especially during the rut. But I mean, rubs and all that stuff. And if you bump a buck that's on a doe or something like that, you can just walk around and do that and hopefully set up if you bumped it the right way. You know what I mean? So I think there's a time and place to go look and jump around for new spots, but I just don't feel like last week was the time to do that. I think
this week,
at least for us in our situation, I think it would be more beneficial to set your historical spots until they don't work anymore. Because I have a spot right now where I can sit, and apparently it was good during the rut last year, where I seen 3 different bucks and 3 different sits when I sat there. And then the vacation was over and we had to go home. And when I sat there, I didn't go a day and not see a deer, or a sit and not see a deer. Because then I sat there like the very last evening and I seen like little spikes. So if you can go to a spot and see deer and then consistently see different deer in that spot each time you go, I think you need to put your butt in that tree and just stay there.
I think it's different strokes for different folks. I think there's many approaches that can work, and I think that's one that absolutely can work. And
it's worked in the past too. Yeah,
I've seen it work. I think that it's tough to go in early October when there's not a lot of sign laid down. It's still 95 degrees. It's tough to judge a spot, because I think about a spot like the community center where in the peak of the rut I can go and see double-digit deer. If I go sit that spot when it's 95, there's a chance that I might not see a deer. It doesn't mean the spot was bad, right? It means the conditions were bad. So in a sense, it is hard to go find those new spots, because a good spot may just still not be producing because nothing's producing all that much.
Right. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, in the spot I found, I feel like I don't need to really jump around, especially this week when we go down there and it's a cold front. I think my butt needs to be in that tree because the movement will hopefully be picking up. And when you look for a spot, what do you look for? Like, you hope to find a pretty good little travel corridor where you can see deer every sit and hopefully different deer. And the reason I say different deer every time too is because we've all been in those predicaments where we'll set a spot and it's the same doe group and then maybe a little dink that comes by every single time you sit there. And that's great, and kind of like fishing wise, you never want to leave fish to find fish, but sometimes that is the right move. But if you find a spot that is a good little travel corridor, you have deer coming and each deer you see is different, like, that's what you look for in a spot on public. And like, if you find it, why not hunt it?
I don't think there's a reason not to hunt it. I think it's all about confidence. If you have confidence in that spot that's going to produce and you've seen it in the past, like, try again. And I think that's kind of the nature of what makes a spot in the mountains a little different than maybe a normal piece of public is the nomadicness of the deer. I think naturally brings different bucks, where it's like, if you see a buck, the likelihood of him coming back by again the next day is like 0. Zero. So the consistency can really pay off. Right. But the consistency can really pay off in the sense of, like, it's kind of like a revolving door. It's like, there's one, that's a different one. Don't want that one, that's a different one, Mm-hmm. And so that consistency can work. And I think jumping around can also work. It's just like all personal preference.
And again, I agree. I think it is personal preference. They both could work, but how much do you want to drain yourself too? Because I walked around. Like, there was one day I probably did 4 or 6 miles just scouting. And so we'll actually get into this. So now we're on the evening of day 2, I checked out a new spot that we shed hunted this last postseason, I believe. I think it was. And we marked it on X, and I went down there to check it just because it was like, I don't know. I went and checked out this one spot that we hunted previous years, and I really wasn't feeling it. Like there were some like older rubs in there, which was fine. I jumped the doe, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to walk through this little piece of bedding right here. I know deer are always set up in it, but for some reason I had a gut feeling that I was like, let's just walk through it and see if something big bumps, and if not, we'll jump across the road right here. We'll go in 300-400 yards and go see what this looks like right now. And that's what I did, and I walked through that bedding, and I just seen a little old basket rack, probably 60 inches, and I was like, cool.
So you got in full draw?
Yeah, trembling. Arrow fell off the rest, so I didn't shoot. But there could have been a big buck just bedding down in the grass and like watching me walk by and like was like, nah, this guy's an idiot. I'm fine here. That could have happened, but I walked across the road, and by the time I set up, it was like 4:45, something like that. And mind you, right now it gets dark about 7:15-ish.
Yeah, pretty quick now.
And yeah, so I just now put my platform, I just now cinched it down and stepped up on it, and it was probably about 5 o'clock, something like that. And I don't even have my bow pulled up yet. And I have my bag sitting by my feet because I'm about to get my camera arm out and my bow holder and all that stuff. And for some reason, I just look to my left and I just see a deer head sitting there looking at me. And it's not like looking at me, but I thought it was. And it was just walking towards me. And I'm like, oh crap. I immediately like dropped my lineman's rope because I just now hooked up my tether. That's what I did. And I don't even have my lineman's rope shoved in my little pack yet. And so I just dropped it and it started dangling, and I was like, crap. So I started shimmying up my bow, and I got the thingy off, my arrow knocked, and it was a doe, and that was it. But it got within like 52, 55 or something like that. And I was like, you come any closer. You come any closer.
We're slinging this next week is what I'm hearing on does.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, the spot I plan on sitting, it ain't a bad drag. And someone has to get the killing started, but I don't know. I had mixed feelings on that. Just to get a little off topic, it's like, that's a really good rut spot. So do I want to shoot does right there?
Yeah. To me, it's completely reliant on the length of the drag. If it's a pretty short drag, absolutely. I don't think you're going to do harm by shooting a doe out of there. I don't think so.
Yeah, you're probably
now,
right.
you got to shoot one and you're in there looking for her for 4 hours. Yeah, you're probably going to do a lot of harm. But
I shot at that big one there last year, and I was looking for my arrow for 20 minutes after dark, and then I shoot one the next day. It runs 50 yards, tumbles over. We gut it. We even have video of Nate over there pissing, and then literally I had another buck and doe walk down that same little path very next loading. So I don't know if they really like get hurt that much.
I don't know. The guts wouldn't worry me, but like shooting one and walking a dragon out, I don't know. That doesn't bother me that much. But wouldn't prefer it. But you talking about having your bow on the ground reminded me of a time when I was hunting in there and I was using a hang on, and I climbed up and I didn't have a lineman's belt. A lineman's belt will change your life. Like just being able to stay close to the tree and hands free.
Oh, absolutely.
And I didn't have one, and I was still hunting in a lock on. And I remember I got up to my top stick and I had my right arm around the tree and I had my lock on my left arm, and I slammed it on the tree, and I was like bear hugging the tree, and I had I had the tree bear hugged, and I had the stand in between my arms, and I hear and I'm like, no crap. And I just looked down, and there's a doe and she walks right underneath me as I'm like holding the lock on the tree. I'm like, please. And then I got it cinched onto the tree, and I got in there. I was like, all right, come on. And then I saw nothing. I was like, of course. Like the deer had walked right underneath me as I was like hanging on to the tree.
Did she ever catch whiff of you?
No. That's the sad part.
Cool.
It was sad. I was like, and it was a place that I was totally going to shoot a doe. She was 200 yards from the road, and I was like, no.
Yeah, that sucks. Dude, I'm telling you, ever since switching to a saddle, it's like, I don't understand how people, granted, if you had like a harness with the lineman's rope and stuff like that, and you were trying to hang it, like that would probably work, especially for a hang on, but just a saddle is so freaking diverse, dude, and it's so light and it's so easy to set up. I feel so safe and secure. I mean, you're always attached to a tree, and like it's awesome.
Yeah, being able to go hands free is a big deal too. When you're setting crap up, you're like, wee.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, you get it set up the right way. It's nice. So, day 2 evening, what did you see?
So that one first doe, and then She walked from the bottom of the ridge or this little drainage to some tall grass. And then a little bit later, where she came from, the exact little spot where she came up that little drainage, there was another doe. And for some reason, she blew and like darted off. And I was like,
they do that.
My wind's going this way. Like, she didn't see me. She was way off. And I was like, that's odd. And then my wind was blowing back behind me, and I heard some deer blowing back there, but that's the way I walked in. So I was like, whatever. Like, one's not going to come in from that way now.
Yeah.
They probably were going to, but my wind was, and they were letting me know about it. But I think, because I sat there that evening, and then the next morning, because I was like, hey, this is a pretty good spot. Like, quite a bit of deer, but something was off, because late that evening, like, I got in there late, and so someone could have been hunting like near there, but there wasn't another truck parked where I parked. But across from where I was hunting, like probably another 600 yards, there was another road that they, I guess, could have parked on and then walked in from that way, but the wind would have been wrong. So that's just why I didn't expect anyone to be hunting in there.
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonalimbmfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
And so I left my stuff and I set up there the next morning, and I got in there pretty early just because I was excited about it. And probably right at gray light, I heard something. It sounded like someone like shimmying up a tree, trying to with their climber, like quietly. And I was like, that could be a raccoon, that could be a squirrel. But I was like, wait, usually around gray light, like a little bit after gray light's when the squirrels usually pop out of their little holes. And like, that's when you really hear them running around, or at least I do. And I was like, it's almost too early to be a squirrel right now for some reason. Like, that's just what I was thinking. And it just sounded off. And I think there was another hunter down across on the other side of that drainage, because
how far away? Close enough to hear one shimmy up a tree, I was going to say.
Yeah, I'd probably say like 250, 300 yards maybe.
Yeah.
But it could have been even shorter, but I don't know. I felt like someone was over there, because that's probably why that deer blew. And then I didn't see anything that next morning. I might have seen one doe. I don't know. But I don't think I've seen anything that next morning. I think that's kind of why.
Did you hunt that spot out the rest of the time, or did you go somewhere else?
No, so that was that next morning, and then so that'd be Saturday night now. Saturday night. So midday, that's when I walked like probably 4 miles checking out other spots, and because I went all the way back there to that scrape spot, and that's where I was going to hunt that evening, because I was like, you know what, that scrape is wide open. I want to go back there, and I got all the way back there, and I was like, I don't even think this deserves a camera. Like, I just. Again, just gut feeling. I'm trying to trust my instincts more this year as well. And I was like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, I was all the way back there. It was already getting late, probably like, I say late, it's probably about 4:15. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm walking back to the truck. I'll go find somewhere else just right off the road. But I came back to my truck, went and checked out another spot that's probably 300 yards off the road down this different road. And then I checked out 2 more spots kind of close to where I seen where I shot my buck last year, and I didn't really like. They were good spots, but I was like, let's just keep jumping around. And then I was like, okay, I only have an hour of daylight left. I'm probably a quarter mile from where I could park for that spot where I shot my buck last year. And I was like, you know what? I seen doe in there last year. I'm tired of walking around. I want to go sit somewhere where I know I'm going to see a deer. But again, only an hour left to daylight. I get halfway down this hill and I can literally see the tree where I sit, and about 75 yards from where I sit, the wind's blowing towards my face as I'm walking down this little hill to this finger, and I see about 130-inch 8 bound off. And I'm like, nice. So lesson learned, sit where you think you're going to see deer and quit walking around when it's 90 degrees.
Or don't get to the stand an hour before dark.
Yeah, probably. but again, you know my mindset on that. It's like, okay, no, I was checking out other spots, and then, it's public land. So if you're going to hunt, you go hunt. And that's just the way it is, because like anything can happen. And I don't think I scared him. Like he moved because he had to move. And
did you jump him up bedded, or was he just walking around?
I think
ran into each other.
I think he was bedded. Because I'm coming down the hill. And granted, I wasn't looking. I was trying to be quiet and I was trying to watch where I step. And I get probably halfway down that hill. It's probably only like a 350-yard walk, something like that. And I'm about 150 in, and all of a sudden I top this little hill where I'm about to go straight down, and I just see that deer bound off. He could have been up on his feet, but I know for sure he's about 75 yards away from that tree where I sit. And I was like, damn, like he was a good looking buck. Like definitely, I know he was an 8-point, but he was pretty wide, and like, I don't know, he was just a good solid 8. Like he wasn't like tight racked or anything like that. And I was like, okay, if he comes by me, he's getting busted. But right when he bounded off, I was like, okay, the wind's in my favor. He probably don't know what I was, because he bounded off when I was probably 125 yards away from him, something like that. And so immediately I just kind of dropped down, wait until I couldn't see him no more.
And was that grass pretty tall when you were walking in?
Belly button high, probably.
Okay, so enough where he probably heard you. He probably didn't see you. He probably heard you.
It was pretty windy. I think he seen me.
Maybe see you. Yeah.
I think he seen me. But still, it's like, okay, he didn't like what he seen. He seen something walking his direction. And like, as soon as he bounded off, I just immediately like dropped down, and then I turned around and walked back up to my truck just in case he just went in a little ways. And then if he seen me again, I was like, I'm not even going to give him that opportunity.
Well, you see that happen, and I've seen that happen many times where you jump one up and you're like, oh, he's spooked. And then you kind of walk into where he was sitting and you kind of hunch down, and then like you see him come back 30 minutes later. That happened to me in Nebraska. And like, they do that. Like they spook real hard, and they're like, okay.
He didn't even spook hard though. He was just like trying to just get out of the vicinity, like almost like antelope with that bubble. I think he was trying to get out of that bubble. But so I I did get out of there, and then I was like, you know what? I know that spot's good. I'm not going to risk bumping him twice just to hang my stand for 45 minutes. I'll just come in the next morning. Maybe he'll work his way back by. And long story short, he didn't. But I did see a little fork-horned milling around on a under an oak tree, probably 200 yards away from me that next morning, and that was Sunday morning. So that kind of wrapped up my week. But old Justin Smith, everybody's seen him. If you watch that guy. If you watch any of our public land hunting videos, he's the big burly guy that usually cooks us some food. And he gave me crap about saying that he puts too many mushrooms in the spaghetti.
Just the truth.
And yeah, it is the truth, but he made me feel bad about it. He was like, you know what? Here. Oh, what did he say? He said, you know what? You're not getting any of this food this year. He said, I'm just going to bring you a whole box of ramen. You could eat on that if you don't like my cooking. And I was like, you know what? That's a fair play. So I don't know.
I love your cooking.
I love your cooking. Just not.
Yeah, I really do. That's not a lie either. Just I don't like mushrooms. So that's the only thing I disagree with. You know what? I'm gonna cook dinner one night. I'm just gonna add a whole bunch of onions to a lot of stuff because he doesn't like onions. Well, so Justin's my uncle, and that's the one thing I can trust him when he cooks, because I know there's not an onion in there, because he hates him more than me. And so every time he cooks, I feel taken care of because I know he's not putting an onion in there.
He was saying something that I think one time Virginia was cooking him some food or something like that, and
probably beanie weenies.
I forget what it was, but he was like, "Is there any onions in that?" And she said, "Yeah, but you can't taste them." Then he said, "Then why the hell do you even put them in there then if you can't taste them?"
That's so true. Isn't that a good argument?
Like, it is a good argument. Like, what do you say to that?
If you don't taste them, don't put them in there. Yeah,
right.
Lauren's got to where she grinds them up. and makes them into like a paste or like a just like a liquid and puts them in there. And I'm like, cool, just add onion powder then if you're just going to do that. Like, I'm good with the flavor. I just don't like the texture. It's the biting.
Oh, really? You see, I asked Justin that, and he said he's the complete opposite. Like, it's the flavor.
Oh, I don't mind the flavor. It's the texture. I don't like going crunch, which I like lettuce, so it doesn't make any sense. But I just don't like it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any. That's wild. But no, Justin. Why I brought him up was he's seen some pretty good movement too. Like, so, just a little bit of recap for the people who might just be joining in to the podcast or any of the HA stuff. Justin's killed quite a few big bucks down there where we hunt, and he's did a lot of it, like I think 4 bucks down there the last 2 years, and
tagged out twice in a row.
Yeah. So he knows his stuff down there. But this year he had a goal. He was like, he said, I'm expecting to get 300 inches of bone out of my 2 deer this year. And so with that, obviously, if anyone can do simple math, like the average is about 150 inches per buck. Well, he had a lot of pretty good pictures on camera and a few 150s, I would say. But he had one nice looking 6-point, like wide framey sucker. He sent you the picture, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
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 But anyways, Justin seen a really nice wide 6-point, and he decided to pass it. Like, this would probably be 100 and I don't even know. What do you think this thing scores? That's a 6.
Shoot. I shot a 7 that was 20 inches wide. And I would say the one he was looking at was probably a little more impressive than that. Probably like 120. Maybe a little bit smaller.
120?
I mean, dude, I've seen 6-points that have a 150-inch frame and they're like 130.
I mean, Carol's is a pretty good example. And
that one was 128.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't that big.
No, I wasn't saying 130s, but I wouldn't put it at like sub 120.
No, I didn't say 120. 120, somewhere like, I'm just saying a 6. Like a 6 can look huge.
Oh, gotcha.
120.
Yeah. Well, long story short, he passed it, and he said that thing came in at like 25 yards for 15, 20 minutes, and he just chose not to shoot it just because he was like, ain't going to kill a 150 if you shoot these things. And before, I've always thought when you hear that on other podcasts and stuff about someone, saying you ain't going to kill a 180 if you shoot the 150s, it's like, yeah, but I would shoot a 150 every day of my life. Mm-hmm. Little did I failed to realize that it's perspective. Someone who's in their 50s or possibly 60s. I'm not saying Justin's that old. Justin's not that old. I think he's like, 40, 42 maybe?
Yeah, he's 40, 41.
Yeah, something like that. But someone who's shot, quite a few deer, and they have a goal to shoot something bigger than that, it's okay to have that perspective on you can't shoot the 150s if you want to shoot like a 180. Like, to me, before, that sounded like really snobby-ish, and it's like, oh, how are you going to tell someone who's never even shot a 150 yet to pass on it because they can't shoot a 180? And I think that just got lost for me, where that's not the case. That's for people who have shot 150s before and wanting to pass them to shoot the 180. And if people don't mean that, then yeah, it's probably is a little douchey.
And I think it's a really simple thing, because literally it just takes you out of the woods. That's it.
And I think that's been his issue like the last 2 years. Now, granted, the one 2 years ago scored like 165, something like that. Mm-hmm. But last year he shot, I think, probably, it might make the book, the first one.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, or Pope and Young book. And then the second one was like, 142, 144, something like that.
Yeah.
And down there's potential for really, really good bucks. And I think that was his problem, because he was tagged out, I think, October.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks he had shot 2 bucks. It was like October 12th he was done in Oklahoma. So that is what it is. You shoot your 2 bucks, or you're in a 1 buck state, you shoot one, takes you out of the game. Now you can't hunt anymore. So, I mean, I get it. I'm not there yet, but
no,
I get it. Yeah,
I really do. That was a giant 6 that he passed, and then I had a really good 8, and I was like, Justin, I'm just telling you now, you're going to help me drag that thing out if one like that walks by me.
Yeah. It's all standards and expectations, which if you have the time to put into it, you don't have to lower your standards, and he has the time. So
let me ask you this. What are your standards going in to this week? Because you and Jake Ayers have been talking. For people that don't know Jake Ayers, you're probably about to meet him here pretty soon.
Yeah.
He just to say, like, if you have the name Jake, you're probably going to be handsome. Take a look at myself. But Jake Ayers is next level handsome, let me tell you.
Yeah. Sorry, you were talking about standards, and then you got on a Jake Ayers rant.
Oh, sorry. that tends to happen. He's a beautiful man. And a killer. But yeah, standards. That's where I was. You and Jake Ayers have been talking, and you guys are like, hey, we're capped here on our lease at, for this big of bucks. It's time to do something a little bit better.
Yeah, I've put so basically what we were talking about, and we kind of started off with a different conversation, was this last year I said I'm kind of done hunting over corn feeders on private land. And we kind of got into that deep discussion and why and that sort of stuff. And then we talked about a myriad of things, and we were talking about hunting at the lease and hunting in Southwest Oklahoma, and kind of the cap, the high end, like a 5-year-old buck. If he's over 140, that's a really, really good buck there. And that's a really good buck anywhere, don't get me wrong. But it seems like there's fewer and fewer of those kind of top end bucks, like 150 plus, 160 plus, those kind of flyers. And so that's why I wanted to hunt public. And there's a really good cold front coming in this next week, and I can say conservatively a mid 150s coming in. I sent you pictures of him. Like, I have a mid 150s hitting the corn feeder like 3.
You think that's 150s?
It's the one we talked about.
I think we had this discussion when we were on our way to the elk hunt, but
yeah, you said he was like 154.
Oh, did I?
He's not 140s. I know that. You can show the camera if you'd like.
So there's this.
You showing the daylight or the dark picture?
I just showed the dark, the daylight. It's too
bright.
Whited out. Yeah, but no, I mean, a good buck, but I guess what I'm missing on that is the body size. I'm used to seeing those little bitty old mountain deer, which makes the rack look huge. And that,
that's a 200
body,
20, 30 pound deer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that deer is probably legitimately close to 100 pounds on a deer we're hunting in the mountains. So no,
that's probably it. You're probably right.
And so just to put it in perspective, Jake Ayers is about as conservative as a scorer as it gets. And I was like, what do you think? And he was like, I think that deer could be low 60s. I was like, really? And he said, yeah.
Really?
Like, yeah. Drew thinks low 60s. I think that high 50s range. Anyways, he's a really good deer. He's a really good one. And he's been hitting that corn feeder the last 2 or 3 days. And
you don't want to go in there and kill him?
I want to kill him, but I don't want to kill him over a feeder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't do it for me anymore. So
look at you.
I want to kill him. He's big.
Yeah, no, he's a big bug.
He's big.
How about this? You guys go down to public, and then I'll go to your lease.
Then you'll go shoot him?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not in my old timer phase where I'm whatever, we're going to do that yet. But I do want to shoot him. But I really want to me, it's just as important how you kill him as what you kill. And I want to go find one and use my brain a little bit and walk into a new spot and shoot one like that, even if it's a little smaller. But talking about standards, unless it was like a 6-point that like Justin saw last week, like a really framey big sucker, I think it'd have to be Pope and Young. I'm not going to shoot anything.
Easily Pope and Young, not like a gross Pope.
No, like a Nat Pope. Yeah. Pope. And so that's a big 8-point or a really nice 10-point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at because I've got 14 shoulder mounts and they're expensive and they take up a lot of space.
Dude, they're only getting more expensive.
Yeah, they're extremely expensive. So I've shot enough deer to be really, really happy. So I'm not in my Justin era yet, but I'm ready to use a little bit of discipline and let some smaller bucks.
It's so tough though, because you'll get your butt kicked, and all of a sudden you'll see a deer with antlers and you're like, oh my God. And you're like, no, he isn't big enough. And then you're like, but is he?
But he could be.
is he though? Is it just me? You look at him, and 9 times out of 10, if you got to think about shooting a deer, chances are it's going to have some ground shrinkage when you walk up to it, right?
Your bow will levitate when it's the right one.
Bow hunting is a game of confidence, and the last thing that you want to be thinking about when you're at full draw on a giant buck this fall is, I hope this broadhead does its job. I prefer a reliable, fixed blade broadhead that's tough, flies great, and penetrates deeply no matter the arrow setup. And that's why us guys at the Hunter's Advantage shoot Vantage Point archery broadheads. And just a few weeks ago in September, I laid down my first bull elk with the VPA Omegas. In my mind, there's no reason to risk messing with a broadhead that can have a mechanical failure when you can get a super tough, reliable broadhead that's sharp and flies great, and you don't have to worry about the thing failing on you. And if you needed any other reason to choose VPA, they're 100% made in America. To check them out, go to vparchery.com and make sure to use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off your next pack of broadheads. Once again, that's vparchery.com, and make sure you use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
For sure. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
I've never had one that I've had to talk myself into. Like, usually I could tell you on first glance, like,
Yeah. Yeah. We always call it the oh damn factor. So if a buck walks in that makes you go, oh damn, it's probably the one you should shoot.
Yeah, that's happened to me every buck I've ever shot. I'm like,
yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one right there. But I'm more than anything, I'm excited to get back to the mountains. It's a heck of a cold front. Like, we're talking 39 as the low on
tomorrow's
Wednesday
for the low. Yeah.
So I think what's different from where you were last week to this week is, one, that cold front. If you look at it on both ends, it's super hot, and then it gets super hot again after. Like, so I think those 3 to 4 days in the middle right there where the front's actually roaring, you're going to start to see a lot more sign. And I think you'll start seeing scrapes and rubs more, particularly more rubs. I've never found a ton of scrapes in the mountains.
So yeah,
I don't know why that is. Like, I found
on those old logging roads, you'll see.
Yeah. But I never find like a big, you see a lot of stuff in the big woods and stuff. It's like, oh, look at this big community scrape. It's like, I don't really see a lot of that. That could be a pressure thing. Like, there's a lot of people in and out of those spots, so the deer maybe don't lay as much sign down. But I'll tell you one thing I do always find is a lot of rubs. Yeah,
those are definitely more frequent. But see what Justin was saying, because I was trying to pick his brain too, just to have a little bit of ammo. He really doesn't look for sign. I mean, he does. He'll keep his eye out for it, but a lot of the places where he was getting pretty good pictures, he was like, just terrain, like good-looking terrain. He said, I try to find a trail. And he sets over that, and he got quite a bit on camera that are really good.
Yeah. And I guess a trail is sign, right? But it's not traditional. It's not what you think of when you think of big.
It ain't the sexy sign, yeah.
It's just deer sign. It's not. It's like a track. Like, oh, look at these tracks,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not a rub. It's not a scrape, but it is sign. So yeah, that's good. I think the topography is something you really could bet on. But what the issue is like there's a lot of good topography.
See, that's the thing. Like, how do you sort through that? Yeah. Which most of the time, limited resource. But again, that can even get kind of scarce too.
Yeah.
Overwhelming, I should say. Because it's like, oh yeah, find the good dropping oak. And you turn on the oak layers on X, and you're like, oh wait, this is all red and it's all oaks. And then you get in there, and it's like, okay, sweet. There's 15 different good dropping oak trees that I hear and see right now, and it's like, which one's it? Which one's the ticket? I don't know.
I found a spot that I sent you that is 3 pieces of topography coming together, and I think what's going to differentiate that spot for me is which one of the sides of that Y has the best bedding cover. Like, because you got to pick a side in the Y. You can't sit in the middle, because if you sit in the middle, you're still 75, 80 yards from every edge, right?
Right.
So you do have to kind of pick one in a sense. And what I'm interested in is that oak flat on the east side of the Y, is that really good bedding cover? Or is the stuff to the north where there's more topography and grass, is that the better bedding cover? That's going to be the difference for me on picking a spot. So
I'll tell you, trail cameras will help out on that too.
Well, it's funny, though, because I've seen that in the pre-rut and the rut down there where you're hunting a piece of topography and you're like, oh, I expect them to come from this way. And then one jets that way, and then 30 minutes later, one jets back the other way, and you're like, okay. And then one jets down from the top, and you're like, all right.
Sweet. They're both
nice. Nice. Yeah, and that can be the case. A lot of times I've seen that where the community center is a good example where I've seen bucks come from 7 different directions, and I'm like, how do you... Justin and I did that one time where there was a buck that ran across the top of the ridge, and we're like, all right, let's get over there. We did that, and then one ran down this other drainage, 3 bucks chasing a doe. And we were like, okay, let's go over there. And we did that, and then we were like, okay, we just got to pick a spot and sit because we're chasing the wrong thing. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I hope that with the cold front coming, I hope that there's a little more sign laid down. That would be my hope.
Yeah, but more than anything, I just want a little bit earlier movement, because I think that would be the ticket with about any spot that we can sit that we know of. Is if we can just get a little bit better movement, I think something will die.
I hope so. It's gonna be fun. We're going up on Wednesday night, and we'll be hunting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. So we're going to get 7 sits in. Anytime I have that many sits, I kind of feel like I have enough room to like mess something up. Be like, okay, I'm not burning my 1 out of 3 here. You know, like if I burn this, I can like get close. And so I'll probably that first morning go in and try to hunt that Y. And if I see deer movement on one side that I'm not in.
Oh, so you're coming in there on the morning to do it. You're not going to try to set up in the evening where you can get a look at it.
I'm going to try to get in there and go hard. Which I've had that happen. I've had that happen before, and it's one of the benefits of hunting the mountains is when you can read the topography. Like I've went into spots before where I've like had to break through brush, and then I get up in the tree, and I've been in the tree 5 minutes, and it's and you look, and there's a deer at the base of your tree, and you're like, I had no idea anything about this spot.
You know? Right? No, that's it. I agree. It's really cool, but for me, I like laying eyes on it first. That way, I can pick, with my eyes, pick the best tree, because I know you're the same way. I don't like going in there with the headlamp where, it looks like a big old lighthouse on. Headlamp works great. I could see the whole area if I wanted to turn it on and like get a layout of it. And I did that before, but I just feel like that kind of hurts. And I'd rather go in the evening where I can look with my eyes out in front of me. That way I'm not like walking past it and then leaving my scent trail there and then walking back to the tree where I want to sit, or the best looking tree. And then, my luck, I shimmy up it, and then all of a sudden they'll come by, and my shooting lanes are right there where I was walking, and they'll catch it and not take another step where I need it to and be gone. And so that's why I like it's just less invasive, I feel like.
Yeah, it can be. I agree with that. But for me, if you don't hunt it in the morning blind, you have, call it wasted. You missed an opportunity where you could have seen what the deer are doing. Even if you're not completely in it, I like the idea of being like, okay, I was 50 yards out of the game there. I need to get over here, And the good thing with a bow is you're not shooting limited to 10 yards. So you kind of do have a circle radius around you of however many. So, and I've got a way on different wind directions to access it. So
that's not a bad hike either.
No, we've got a good southeast wind, and all those funnels come together right there. And so I'm hoping with the good southeast wind, I can walk down that first finger, and with the thermals rising, it'll take my stuff up that finger, up to the top. So I'll be walking down into the bowl in the morning. That's how I'm thinking about it.
So I don't know if you got yours in yet.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do.
Dude, is this not sick?
Yeah.
Look at this little thing.
I just need my rope. Yeah.
So people that don't know what this is, go ahead and explain it for them. I'm away from my mic.
So that's the Out on a Limb. I think that's the, is that the Big Bob? Oh, I need to look on my phone. Chase told me. I'm not a one-stick connoisseur. Let me look right quick.
I'm not either. I'm still trying to unwrap this thing.
So that's a one-stick from Out on a Limb. What it is instead of, that replaces your saddle hunting platform and your sticks. So you're literally just getting up into the tree with a singular stick, and you need a lot of rope to do it. So that one, let me find the model on that one. It is a that is the
that's insane.
Okay, that's the Slick Rick. So there's a lot of different models that Out on a Limb has, and that's the Slick Rick. I think it's 14 inches long. It has a cam cleat on it. It's super lightweight. So talking about kind of the hunt scouting stuff that we do, if I was having a bad sit and like I really didn't have a confidence in a spot, that's the kind of thing that I would like hunt till 9 o'clock, get down and just go scout and wait. You know, if I found a new spot that I wanted to get into or I wanted to hunt all day, that's what I would use is that one stick. I feel like it just gives you a lot of flexibility on weight savings, so you can really, really get after it with the boots on the ground. That's the way that I intend to use it. It's exciting. I think it's sweet, and it's cool looking.
Like my saddle setup now with like the 3 sticks and my platform and all that stuff, it isn't bad whatsoever. But comparatively to the 1 stick, you're like, my heaviest thing in my bag, if I carried that 1 stick, would be the camera arm.
I know,
and that's saying something. That's pretty sweet.
I know, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Now I know there's going to be a learning curve on it, but I'm excited.
Dude, I don't expect to attempt it during a hunt this trip.
Yeah, just try it at camp.
It's going to be an at camp shenanigans type of ordeal for sure.
Yeah.
But no.
I wanted to mention too, there's a lot of people that are interested in the 1 sticky stuff. So if you are interested in that, I would say Out on a Limb has some of the best 1 sticks, and I've seen at ATA show, that's what everybody wanted to see was the 1 stick.
Dude.
So
yeah.
If you guys want one or you're interested in one, check them out. It's outonilimb.mfg.com, and it's code HNTA15. You can get 15% off. So I wanted to say that before I forgot.
Yeah, for sure. No, those cam cleats are pretty slick. I need to get and try to fasten some on my climbing sticks, and
yeah,
I think that would be pretty slick. But no, so what's your game plan then going into this upcoming week? Like, are you going to continually try to jump around? Like, what if you find a good spot? Like, are you going to stick it out? I mean, it is a cold front. It is mid-October. Anything could, I wanted to say, like, anything could happen.
Oh, it can.
It's not
very drastic.
But it is a very good time to kill a deer. So what's your game plan going into it? Like, are you just going to be a spot-to-spot guy, or are you just going to kind of play it by your gut feeling?
So I was looking at the historic lows, and the average low right now where we hunt is 55, and it's going to be 39 one day. So you're talking 15, 16 degrees lower than normal.
Which is to be on their feet.
That's significant. That's a lot. And so my plan is obviously by year, but if I go in and I'm having good hunts in a spot, I'll probably give it a chance. The good thing is we're seeing a lot of southeast and east winds, so I've kind of looked at spots that I have good access on those, and that's a really good win for your access too.
Yeah.
So I'll probably try to just hunt the spots that I have the best access for. I will not go 2 days without, or 2 sits without changing spots if I'm not seeing deer, because it's way too cold. The deer will be moving. But
baby,
I'm ready,
dude. It's going to be. I got like a 1/8 chub right now. It's sick.
I went out today. And I shot my bow at lunch, and I was shooting just out to like 60. I shot one 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, whatever. And then I shot
with your broadheads or field points?
With my field points. I paper tuned my bow the other day, and it kind of changed my sight. So I had to move my sight a little bit left, and then I messed with my sight tape. Because obviously when your bow is not paper tuned, your arrows are coming off sideways. Right. So your sight tape is not completely different, but just a little different. So my sight tape was a little different. I had to get that dialed, but everything's dialed. I'm just sitting here. I feel like a race car sitting on go. Sitting there like, come on, hit the light.
Red line and waiting for the green light.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we like wait all year for. Obviously, you're waiting for the rut, but at mid to late, it's gonna be freaking late October by the time we get there. It's a mid-October cold front, and that's when you got to change this.
Good time for deer to die.
Well, we're feeling there's going to be a big buck sitting in his bed at about 3 o'clock, and he's going to be like, something's different. I'm ready to rock. Like, he's going to get up and move a little bit. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. It's going to be a fun week.
You and I both. Plus, we're getting Jake Ayers down there, dude. Peyton's coming. We're getting the whole gang back together, dude.
We're getting the crew back together. Yeah,
it is.
I think some deer are going to be dying. And if not dead, they're going to get scared to death by the arrows.
We'll get shot at. Let me tell you that. Like, might whiff, might spot them. Who knows? But they're getting shot at, dude.
Yeah, there's gonna be some projectiles flying through the air. It's gonna be fun.
And again, that's all you can ask for, right? Like, trust me. I understand. There ain't nothing worse than finally seeing a big old buck. You shooting at it, you whiffing at it, or maybe you hit it and you can't find it. There's nothing worse. But we were talking the other day about what makes a successful hunt, right? And I think if you get an opportunity, that's a successful hunt.
For sure. You're not going to seal the deal every time.
What else can you ask for? Like, if you're setting, and again, I'm not knocking anything. This is just an expression, probably a bad expression. If you're setting 20, 25 yards over a feeder, the expectations for a fatal shot are going to be higher, right? And the likelihood of you making a fatal shot will be higher. But when it's a public land scenario, and kind of like what you were mentioning just a little bit ago, where a deer can come from this way or back behind you. There's all these different scenarios, and there's nothing really, unless there's like a scrape or maybe you put out some mineral or something. But most of the time, that's not how it works for us. There's nothing to stop them at this certain shooting lane. There's nothing to get their attention unless you go, man, or whistle or do whatever you're going to do to stop them to shoot. And even then, you're like, you don't really know the exact yardage. Most of the time when you see one, you kind of looked at their path trajectory. So I'm trying to use big words here. And you're like, okay, he's going to walk in front of that tree. So you range the tree. And then you're like, okay, 36. And you're like, he's a little bit in front of the tree, 33. And then you're like, okay, that has to be good enough. And it's not like a perfect thing. It's just a good enough. And as bad as that sounds, that's the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, the more things that I don't control, like the more things that could and will go wrong, the higher level of like anxiety and giddiness I have about it. Because I'm like, this could work out. This could not work out. What if he's at 55 and there's a tree? What if he doesn't hit the scrape? What if a doe blows back here?
But
that's the best part.
On that flip side, when you go through all that and you actually find that white belly when you track the blood or that lovely tracking juice, whatever you want to call it, you see that white belly, you're just like,
hands go up.
It's exponentially is like through the roof on what you feel. Versus, in my own experience, like I've shot plenty of bucks over a corn pile on private, and like the feeling from that to getting one down on public, like not overfeed or anything like that, and like going through all this anxiety and like not seeing crap and being like, man, this sucks. I want to go home. I'm ready to go home. And all of a sudden you get it done. You see that white belly and you go up and do the old grip and grin. Dude, it does not compare.
It doesn't at all. And I did want to say like that for a lot of people that listen to this are from the South. And if you hunt over corn piles or feeders, I don't care. Like that's great if you want to.
We do it too.
Yeah. And I've done it a ton. I'm just saying that it's not where I'm at right now. And you're still going to see videos from us of people shooting deer over corn feeders. So don't think that's
as soon as I got a big one, on camera, I will set my boat over a corn feeder. No problem.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that for my southern hunting lovers. But yeah, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a really good week. It's going to be really fun. We've kind of taken our poker chips and we've kind of went all in on the filming side. We were really going after it this year on filming and production and trying to get this thing going to the next level. So I'm excited about it. Now some deer got to die, but I think some arrows are going to be flung.
And I'm pretty sure whoever flings an arrow, they're going to have the ability to do it on camera. So if anything dies, hopefully you viewers can see it as well. It'll be fun. It'll be good.
It'll be really fun. Well, I think that's about it on wrapping up the hunt talk. These are fun.
Real quick, what's your expectations? How many is going to die, or what's your guess? What's your hypothesis on what's going to happen? How many bucks are going to die and how big?
4 of us, Justin Jordan. So out of 6 or 7 guys, I'm gonna say 3 bucks are gonna get shot.
$3. Okay. See, I was at $2.
Yeah,
and I think it's still pretty good.
That's kind of the over/under, 2 or 3, somewhere in there. Let's call it 2.5 over/under.
2.5.
Yeah.
How big?
I think we'll shoot
How big do you think the biggest one's going to be? Let's just put it at that.
It wouldn't surprise me if somebody shoots 150. Yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think I'm going to say 2 Pope and Youngs and a nice one.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Right, you check.
You said
2. I'll agree because I don't think anyone's going to shoot like a 115 anymore. We say that one's going to come in that's probably going to be like freaky or something like that, and like won't score well, but it'll be like really unique.
Yeah,
that might happen because
that's why that 2 Pope and Young's in a nice one.
Yeah. So
also, if I shoot 120 inch 6-point, I'm going to be like, this is a monster.
Yeah. No, that is true. So with that being said, no, I would agree with the guess, but it'll be fun to check back next week and when we do the hunt talk and kind of see how it all lays out, what God has in store for us. But we appreciate you guys listening. And have any other things to add? Any housekeeping?
Yeah, I wanted to say we appreciate you guys continuing to leave rating and reviews. But if you can on Spotify and Apple, continue to do that for us. It really helps us out and reach new audiences. Like 58% of the people that listen to the podcast on audio are on Spotify, and 42 is on Apple. So we need the rating and reviews. 5 stars, please. If you don't enjoy the podcast, you probably didn't make it this far anyways. So leave us a 5-star rating and review. And we got a couple more hunts up on YouTube. We got a public land hunt with Justin laying down one, and then I shot one on the lease, biggest buck we've ever shot. That video's out as of today. So go check out that sort of stuff, and we'll be on the lookout for our next series. We're doing a series on the basics of hunting. You guys will just have to wait to see what that looks like. But be on the lookout. We're up in the production and the amount of podcast episodes we're putting out. But with that, I think we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Bye.